This video about Metroid Zero Mission was initially going to actually be about the 1986 version of Metroid on the NES. Why is that not the case? In the words of the late Fred Willard,
"Hey, what happened?"
I even made use of a ROM hack for the original Metroid that allows you to save and gives you a map. Yet after an hour or so of playing, I just went and played Metroid Zero Mission. Original Metroid is a fascinating game that laid the foundation for so many to follow since, from the Metroid series to the metroidvania subgenre, but because it was laying the foundation, there wasn't really much of a blueprint to work with. It had a really rocky foundation, like a blue family home. Slow movement speed, the floaty jump, everywhere looking the same. Even now having a map with the ROM hack, it wasn't overly helpful. It's one of those games where I would have really had to break out a notebook to make note of everywhere that I'd been and where I needed to go. But after a while I decided, why do I punish myself with this? Why don't I just go and play the remake of Metroid Zero Mission? Now that is much better. It's been nice to come back to this series, and nice to finally touch upon the Metroidvania genre on this channel. With no real word on Metroid Prime 4, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of recent news on Metroid. Well, actually, let's go take a look. Wait, Brie Larson wants to play Samus in the movie of Metroid?
Would Brie Larson work out?
No,
like,
God!
Hypothetically, would I at some point?
No,
Is that like a
God,
personal
please,
attack
no,
or something?
no!
Is that a request? Do you think I should? Yeah, I work out.
Released as a remake of the original Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission came out in 2004. How did Metroid Zero come about? There's an article I found of a director roundtable with the director Yoshio Sakamoto. He had worked on the original Metroid, and he was the only original team member who was involved with the original development of the NES version. He also directed Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. Their goal was to show players who had never played a Metroid game prior to Metroid Fusion the roots of the Metroid franchise, as well retelling the story of Samus's original mission. They did briefly think about taking Metroid 2 or Super Metroid and simply transferring it over to another platform, but they didn't think it would offer them much of a challenge or any creativity in any way. New enemies, new items, new puzzles, new locations, so in a lot of ways it is kind of a completely new game with everything that it takes from the original and reworks it to give it a fresh coat of paint, and adds a very large section at the end. Their biggest challenge was to add enough elements to make the game feel like something that's new while not straying far from the original Metroid to lose the meaning of what we were trying to do. I think everyone can agree that they did an excellent job of it. To me, as far as remakes go, this is up there with the original Resident Evil remake, which I've done a video on in the past. Taking that core game, that core foundation, and building upon it with everything the teams have learned to make a superior version. And it's everything that a remake should be. Let's dive into the game itself. After a quick little intro of landing and a text scroll about what we're doing here, we jump right into things in Brinstar. To note right away, it was interesting to come to this game after playing the original version for how different the controls feel and how different Samus feel. You move a lot quicker, the rooms are much more compact, there's less of the floaty jump than the NES version, and even Super Metroid. So it did actually take me a bit of time to get used to it, but it is much better overall. So we're off to go exploring like every good Metroid game should do. Very early on, we morph ball into these Chozo statues that will give us indication of where we need to go. This could have gone really wrong by giving you exactly every single detail like any modern game probably would, and giving you an arrow of exactly where to go. But I feel this is a good compromise to the team, for it kept the feel of the original, making it more player friendly, and there's still a lot of exploration. It's never a straight path right to there. Of course, as we're making our way through this area, we're taking all these notes of areas that are currently inaccessible, from jump height, to needing the morph bomb, to missiles to open doors, especially if you're a veteran of the series. Another update that the original didn't do is we're given indication of what these items do when we pick them up. Just a small little thing, but it makes a big difference. After some more exploration, we head down to Norfair. Do know I did switch the emulator to widescreen here, so if it looks a little different, that's why. I want to briefly talk about the music. I feel some of the music here is a bit of hit and miss when it comes to comparing it to the original NES as it updated it for the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance sound is, it could be a little iffy, again a little hit and miss. Some of the songs work better than others. There's all of these moments in these games where I think, did I unintentionally sequence break something? Should I actually not be here? Did I miss something? But I can't go back. But of course, this is the developers playing their card and guiding us forward. Eventually we'll find an ability or power that will allow us to go back the way we came. And with here, we end up into the Chozo ruins, and we eventually get the ability to grab onto ledges. And with that, your mind should be going, oh, now there's so many more areas where I could explore as a result with this. I will note that this game doesn't quite hit that magic sweet spot that Super Metroid did. In regards with Super Metroid, whenever you got a new item, I could always remember exactly the places of where I needed to go to deal with it. Here I found I struggled a little more to remember everywhere I needed to go that resulted with these items, but it's still not a huge issue, but I wanted to point that out. Of course, if we keep going here, here's our ship, and now we've come full circle. Again, it's like a great little moment. In a way, it reminds me a lot of Super Metroid, where you come full circle to get back to your ship. Eventually, we make our way to the area known as Kraid. I really dig the music here. Encountered this mini boss, I found it kind of annoying. It seems it just takes too long to get to the point. It should have been killed off a lot quicker. Eventually we make our way to Kraid. I enjoy this boss fight with Kraid. It's not too challenging, but it does keep you on your toes for dodging projectiles, being precise with your aim, dodging the claw attack. And with that, we now get the speed booster ability, which after running uninterrupted for a long period of time, we could speed up and plow through enemies and certain blocks that were, well, blocking us. I have to say, it doesn't really get old speeding up and just plowing your way through enemies. As we head up back to Brinstar, we see our old pal Ridley returning. We go to the next Chozo statue here in Norfair, and then we get shown to go back to Brinstar. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you could just bypass this part or on replaying it. But as it's been a while for me, I kind of forgot about it. But it did feel like padding. You could just jig this to stray a bit from the placement of items in the original Metroid to make this flow better. It's not a deal breaker or anything. It's not like those late fetch quests for items that happens especially in Metroid Prime or Metroid Prime 2. But it was annoying and really unnecessary. Now we have the various suit, which allows us to step into lava. Now we can head back to Norfair and continue areas that were before inaccessible to us without getting heavily damaged. Descending further into Norfair, we can now get the wave beam, and we can now shoot through walls, which is a nice little cool thing to do. Now we can deal with these weird slug-like creatures that we encountered earlier on to open up access to a previous area. Making our way further into Norfair, we have a little mini-boss encounter here, and the music is very similar to the one in Super Metroid. Making our way past this, we end up in the Ridley area. As we head down, we get a cutscene of Ridley landing as well. Navigating our way back here, we actually have to go back up to the previous area where we just were and jump down where that boss died. To be honest, I'm a bit puzzled why we had to do this as opposed to just, having a wall bomb or something to use as opposed to going back the way we came, but c'est la vie. We now deal with this B mini-boss. I actually kind of like this one quite a bit. Hitting that stinger, and it speeds up as time goes on. This is quite a bit of fun. Alright, this is going to be a great fight, and oh, okay, well that was quite easy. He went down without much of a fight. That was really easy. That was, wait a minute, that was Ridley easy. Thank you, I'll be here tomorrow. Take my life, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, follow me on Twitter, leave a comment, subscribe, buy my merchandise. Okay, we're not done here. Yeah, but this is a pretty disappointing fight with Ridley, just how quickly he went down. But this might not be the last we see of him. And with that, we can now go to a new area that was inaccessible before with the death of Ridley. Now we've got Metroids to deal with in this area that's very foreboding with this music. Here, the music from the original transferred over quite well. get that lovely effect that the SNES made use of enemies coming from the background up to the foreground. And now it's time to deal with Mother Brain, and I got a lot of bones to pick with this one, or a brain to pick with this one, I guess. This is a frustrating fight. First, we have these little turrets to deal with, and they're predictable. Still, they can't be destroyed, so we do have to always be in consideration of them. Then we have these, well, I'll call them Cheerios, are a little more precise than the turrets. We have these tiny platforms we have to get across in order to get to Mother Brain, and we have to shoot through these barriers, and after a bit there is some lava below us. And if you take a little hit from the turret or one of the Cheerios, you're going to very likely end up in the lava, and you have to get out, and that process might repeat itself. It can get very frustrating. With the Mother Brain, we have these little dinky platforms to stand on, while dealing with a couple of turrets, and a couple of Cheerios flying us, and the brain shooting an energy attack at us at various times. Best way to really deal with this is to shoot the Cheerios with your ice beam to freeze them for a time so you could focus on Mother Brain. That said, I did die several times during this fight, and had I been playing this on a Game Boy Advance as opposed to an emulator, I wouldn't be surprised if I would have thrown the Game Boy across the room at some point. And I didn't rely on save states. I have done a video in the past about save scumming, but boy, maybe in hindsight, I really should have just saved myself some hassle and just save scum my way through this one. But they did replicate how the battle was in the original Metroid. You know, I do see how they want to keep things faithful to the original, to the roots, but I think here they really could have tried for something a little bit better and less frustrating. Anyways, time for, of course, the patented Metroid escape. So we're done right, just like the original, but wait, there's more. We make our way out into space, only to be shot down by space pirates. Not the best timing, Samus. And back to the surface we go, without our power suit, and we get this dinky little pistol, and it's time to infiltrate the space pirate Mothership to deal with these pirates. Zero suit style. So we've got no armor, no abilities besides crawling and this dinky little pistol. So we're going to have to deal with these space pirates, and we're going to have to stealth this one up, and we get into survival horror mode in the sense for how defenseless we are. If we get caught, we're going to die really quickly. You can see that they took some of that influence from Metroid Fusion and applied it here. And if you get caught, we're more or less screwed. You could stun them briefly with your pistol, and you could get them to hit each other, but if you do get caught, just run. I do like how they took a track from Super Metroid and spruced it up to be an alert music, and it's an interesting choice compared to the original. I really have to commend the team for getting the pace right in this section. We're given a lot of save points along the way, so it's not too frustrating if you die. They have just enough to build up enough tension, but they don't spread them out too far that it gets frustrating if you die. These kind of forced stealth sections can really go wrong in games and break that flow, but here, they managed to pull it off. They took a risk, and it worked. Speaking of other remakes, Resident Evil 2 Remake, which hey, I've done a video on, did have a forced stealth sequence with Sherry that really, to me, did break the pace a bit from the game and detracted from it. We end up in some Chozo ruins, and we get a flashback of Samus as a child being brought here with Chozos. We have this boss to deal with here that's pretty easy, and I have to say, this boss wouldn't feel out of place in a Castlevania game. Something about the backdrop and the music just really gives me this Castlevania vibes. And with that, we got a fully powered suit. You know what that means, right?
Revenge!
No longer are we in danger. We are the danger. We are the ones doing the knocking. We make our way to the top of the ship, and it's time to deal with the final boss, a Mecha Ridley. This isn't too much of a challenge. The boss does ramp its way up when it comes to difficulty of throwing things at you the more you do damage to it. It can be a bit tricky to hit the weak point of Ridley, but nothing you aren't prepared to deal with. And with that, we do another patented Metroid escape. And with that, you've done. You've won. You've beat the game. Congratulations.
Congratulations! 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 Quack, quack. Congratulations! Congratulations!
After the credits, we go back to the Chozo ruins where we got the full powered suit, and we see that Samus in her youth added her contribution to the Chozo with this little drawing at the bottom. Really, Samus, I do hope you got permission to do this, otherwise you'd deface some really ancient, beautiful ruins. Depending on how quick we beat the game and how many items you could get different screens of Samus, of course with more revealing attire if you did better for that fan service. Now you can play on the harder difficulty and also unlock the original NES version. Good stuff. And that is Metroid Zero Mission. The team took the challenge of a title that laid the foundation for future titles in the series, along with the groundwork of the Metroidvania subgenre. Took all they had learned and how the series grew over those years, applied it to update the original, and made one of the best games in the Metroid series. The goal that the team set out to do was to introduce new players who hadn't played the original, to show them the roots of Metroid while upgrading with modern sensibilities and change things up to keep older players guessing. Well, I don't think it makes the original one unnecessary as a result, and it is nice that they did include the NES version here, because there are some weird charms about the original NES version, and it is fascinating to check out, even if you don't really need to beat it, and it can be quite frustrating. If you're going to be playing one in the regular that hits the right balance of keeping to that core that the original went for, but took all that the series had grown and learned over time, this is the version. This Sakamoto fella has a pretty good track record. I mean, he made this, he made Metroid Fusion, worked on the original, he did Super Metroid. Let's take out, what else did he do any more directing? What game did he direct next? Oh, Metroid Other M?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!